Anuli held the cure in her hand, but why should she save the people who treated her like trash? The home of the Eze's family was a palace of wealth. Everything in it was big and expensive. The high polished ceiling, the thick beautiful rugs, and the shiny smooth marble floors. Chief Eze was a famous powerful businessman, and his wife, Madam Ngozi, spent her days organizing parties and buying designer clothes. In the small corner of the house lived Anuli, a 22-year-old housemaid. Anuli was not seen as a person. She was treated worse than the family dog. Anwuli's alarm was the noisy, demanding voice of Madam Ngozi at 5 a.m. She worked from daybreak until past midnight. Her salary was so small it could barely buy her anything. And when it came to food, she only ate leftovers, the ones even the family pets didn't want to eat. The Eze's family were cruel to her. If Madam Ngozi found even one single dirt on the rug, Anuli was forced to scrub the entire living room floor on her hands and knees with a tiny rough cloth. Madam Ngozi constantly called her village girl, dirty teen, and useless trash. Once when Anuli mistakenly forgot to iron a shirt, Madam Ngozi made her stand outside under the hot sun for 2 hours as punishment. Chief Eze was even worse. He acted like Anuli didn't exist. He never looked at her face or called her name. If he wanted something, he would shout, "Hey, bring that," or point his foot towards the item. Anuli was terrified of him. She lived in constant fear, trying so hard to be an invisible shadow in the corners of the house. Her only source of peace was the small dirty space behind the kitchen, among the old buckets and broken bricks. She quietly grew a few wild herbs. Her grandmother, a wise woman from her village, had taught her the name and use of every plant, which ones could cure and which ones could harm. The little garden was Anwuli's secret strength. It connected her to her past. The only person in the house who was kind to her was Ikem, the Eze's youngest son, who was just 10 years old. He would often whisper a quick thank you when Anuli helps him out with something, or he would secretly leave a small biscuit on the laundry basket for her. Because of Ikem, Anuli stayed quiet and did her work diligently. But one day, disaster struck. It all began one hot afternoon when Ikem began to feel a terrible pain in his stomach. By the next day, he had a high fever. He was shaking badly, and the white part of his eyes had turned yellow. Chief Eze and Madam Ngozi rushed him to the most expensive private hospital in the city. After 2 long days of waiting, the head doctor came out with a terrifying news. Your son has severe malaria, but something else is making him worse. A strong natural poison is destroying his liver. We've tried our best medicine, but he needs a special drug to stop the poison. That medicine is rare and not available anywhere in Nigeria. Right now, he has only 48 hours left. Chief Eze, who usually solved problems with money, could not do anything. He made calls and offered large sums of money, but the medicine couldn't be found in time. His wealth was useless to him at this point. Back at home, Madam Ngozi was shouting and crying uncontrollably into the phone. Anuli was sleeping quietly when she heard Madam Ngozi say, "The doctor said it's a plant poison. My son is dying and our money can't even save him." The words plant poison froze Anuli. She remembered her grandmother's lessons about dangerous plants that looked normal. She dropped her broom and immediately thought of Ikem. He loved to play football in the yard and often drank water from the outside tap near the back wall. Anuli ran straight to her little herb garden behind the kitchen. She searched the ground near the old water pipe. She found the weed, a common green leaf that looked harmless, but Anuli knew is the cause of Ikem's ailment. It was the silent killer, a poisonous plant whose sap dripped into the soil and could easily mix with water near the outside tap when it rained. This toxin was now inside Ikem. She quickly looked around the area, and right next to the poisonous weed, growing secretly, was the specific powerful wild African antidote herb her grandmother said was the only natural cure for that poison. Anuli dug up the antidote roots, She stood up, holding the life-saving plant in her dirty hands. This small help could save Ikem's life. But then she paused. Ikem was kind, but his parents, the ones who treated her like nothing, why should she help them? Still, she walked straight into the living room where Chief Eze and Madam Ngozi sat on a fancy sofa looking tired and hopeless. Madam Anuli said quietly, stepping forward, "I know what this sickness is. It came from a plant poison and I know the cure." Madam Ngozi looked up at her with angry red eyes. She saw Anuli in her cheap stained maid uniform and burst out in anger. "Get out of my sight, you mad girl!" Madam Ngozi screamed, her grief turning to wide anger. "You, the girl we pay next to nothing, think you know more than the qualified doctors? You want to put weeds into my son's body. You are just trying to hurt us. Go back to the kitchen and shut your mouth." Chief Eze looked at Anuli and simply waved his hands and said coldly, "Leave, don't make things worse." Anuli didn't move. "Chief, Madam, the herb must be boiled now. Ikem is running out of time." But none of them listened to her. 5 agonizing hours passed. The family received the final call from the hospital. The doctor's voice was full of sadness. "Chief, I am so sorry. His liver is failing fast. He has only a few hours left. You should come say goodbye." Chief Eze dropped the phone. Madam Ngozi screamed loudly and hit her own legs in pain and panic. In the middle of her pain, Madam Ngozi suddenly remembered Anuli, the maid who spoke of a cure. She ran quickly to the kitchen where Anuli was washing plates. "Anuli," Madam Ngozi cried, grabbing her arm. Her tears and expensive perfume mixed together. "That herb, that plant, please tell me, are you sure it can heal my son? Are you really sure?" Anuli looked at her calmly. This was the same woman who had always treated her badly. "I am sure, madam," she replied, "but I must prepare it exactly the way my grandmother taught me." Madam Ngozi took a deep breath. This was the moment of truth. She put her hands together in front of Anuli, like she was praying to a god. "Please, Anuli," she said, her voice shaking. "I've been wicked to you. I've called you trash. I made you suffer. Please, forget all my cruelty. I am begging you, please save my son." Anuli looked at Madam Ngozi, who was kneeling. Then she turned to the hallway as Chief Eze walked in. His face was pale with fear. He saw his wife on her knees. Chief Eze slowly came closer. He took out his gold wallet and removed all the money inside. Then, to everyone's shock, he dropped to his knees next to his wife. "Anuli," he said softly, calling her name for the first time, "I treated you like you were nothing. I never defended you. But now I have nothing left. My money can't help me. My power is useless. You are the only one who can help us now. Please, I beg you, tell me what to do. Take everything, just save my son." Anuli looked down at the mighty Chief Eze and the proud Madam Ngozi as he knelt at her feet. She did not feel happy or proud. Instead, she felt a quiet sadness about the mistake they had made. "I will save Ikem, Chief," Anuli said calmly, looking past their humbled faces. "I will save him because he was kind to me, not because you are begging me." Anuli got to work quickly. She showed Madam Ngozi the exact pot to use, how hot the water should be, and how to mix the bitter tea the right way. Soon, the entire house was filled with a strong, earthy medicinal smell. Chief Eze immediately took the bitter, dark liquid to the hospital. The doctor, terrified but seeing no other choice, administered the tea. Hours later, the unthinkable happened. Ikem's fever stabilized. The next morning, the doctor was surprised. The poison was neutralized and the boy's liver was fighting back strongly. Ikem was going to live. 2 days later, Chief Eze brought Ikem home. Everyone was gathered in the living room waiting. Chief Eze walked past his expensive chairs and stood in front of Anuli, who was quietly folding some clothes. "Anuli," he said, his voice deep with emotion, "you saved us all. We called you trash. We treated you like dirt. But we were fools. You were the most valuable person in this house." Madam Ngozi came forward with tears in her eyes. For the first time, she looked Anuli in the eyes, not at her clothes. Then she gave her a warm, tight hug. "Thank you, Anuli. Madam Ngozi whispered, her voice full of real sorrow. You are not trash. You are a treasure. We have learned a painful lesson. Anuli stood still, feeling the warmth of the embrace. The Ezes, stripped of their pride and power, finally saw her, not as a maid, but as the woman who saved their lives. The Ezes had learned the harshest lesson of their lives. The most valuable people are not always the ones who are dressed in expensive clothes or driving big cars. Sometimes the true savior is the one we least expect. I hope you enjoyed every bit of this story. Please don't forget to like, drop a comment, and share. Bye, and see you in the next one.